In this video tutorial, we will discuss about one of the important features of object-oriented programming, that is inheritance, and also we will see different types of inheritance. The fourth important concept of object-oriented programming is inheritance. First, we will see what is inheritance. Deriving a new class from an existing class is called as inheritance. The old class or the existing class is called as base class, and the new class which is derived from the existing class is called as derived class or subclass. If you want to use the data member and member functions of an existing class in a new class, instead of writing new data member and member functions all over again, the programmer can make a bonding of the new class with the existing class so that the new class can access or use the data members and member functions of the existing class. This property is called as inheritance. That is, the new class should inherit the members of the existing class in such cases. It is also possible to derive a new class from more than one existing class. That means it can inherit data and functions from multiple base classes. This concept is called as inheritance. Next, we will see how to perform inheritance in C++. The syntax is class, derived class name, colon, visibility mode, base class name. The visibility mode actually indicating how base classes are viewed with respect to the derived class. For example, when one class gets inherited from another class, the visibility mode is used to inherit all the public and protected members of the base class. The private members never get inherited and hence do not take part in visibility. By default, visibility mode remains private. What is base class and what is derived class? First, we will see what is a base class. The class from which the derived class gets inherited is known as the base class. Then it is also act as a parent class for its child classes. Then the public and protected members of the base class get inherited to its derived classes. Then the derived class means it is specifying its relationship with the base class in addition to its own members. The syntax for defining a derived class is class, derived class name, colon, visibility mode, base class name, that we already discussed in the previous slide. Then inside this derived class, you can write members of the derived class. This derived class can also access the members of the base class if it is declared as public or protected. The private members never get inherited to the derived class. Next, we will discuss about different types of inheritance or different forms of inheritance. There are mainly 5 forms or types for inheritance. The first one is single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. It is also called as virtual inheritance. These figures are self-explanatory and this will give you the clear idea about what do you mean by different forms of inheritance. The first one is single inheritance. Here you can see that a class B which is derived from a class A. That means a class is derived from a single base class. Such kind of inheritance is called as single inheritance. Next you can see that multiple inheritance. That means a class C is inherited from class A and class B. That means a class is derived from more than one base classes. Such kind of inheritance is called as multiple inheritance. The next one is hierarchical inheritance. Here you can see that the class B, C and D is inherited from class A. So A is the base class. So more than one class is derived from a single base class is called as hierarchical inheritance. And the next one is multi-level inheritance. Here you can see that the class C is inherited from another class, class B, and the class B is also inherited from a class, class A. So this kind of inheritance, that is, a class is derived from another class which is also derived from another class. Such kind of inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. And the final one is hybrid inheritance or virtual inheritance. Actually, this is a combination of more than one inheritance types or inheritance forms. That is called as hybrid inheritance. These are the explanations of the figure we discussed in the previous slide. First, we discussed about single inheritance in figure A. In single inheritance, there is only one base class and one derived class. And the derived class get inherited from its base class. This kind of simple form of inheritance is called as single inheritance. The next one is multiple inheritance. In figure B, we discussed about multiple inheritance. In multiple inheritance, a single derived class may get inherited from two or more base class. Next, we will see an example of multiple inheritance in the next slide. This example will give you the basic idea about how to write an object-oriented program using class and the concept of inheritance. In this example, we will discuss about the multiple inheritance program. For that, I have defined a class A. The syntax is the keyword class followed by the class name, that is A. Then inside the class, I have defined a function A of under the access specifier public. So public colon, inside public access specifier, I have defined a function A of that contains cout A's constructor is called. Then the function is closed and the class is ended. Next, I have defined another class, class B. Then inside that class, I have defined a function B of under public access specifier. Then I have defined a class, class C, which is actually derived from class B and class A. The syntax is the keyword class, the derived class name is C colon, is derived from class B and class A. The public stands for the visibility mode. So class A colon public B comma public A. You have to write the second class first. That is the format. Then inside that class, I have another function C of, which is defined under public access specifier that contains C's constructor is called. Then the class C is ended. Then inside the main function, I have created an object of class C. The syntax is the class name, that is C, object name is small c. Then by using this object, we can access the data members and member functions of these classes. So this is a simple program for understanding the concept of object-oriented programming in C++ and also the concept of class and object, then how to define a class, how to create objects, then how to use the concept of inheritance in object-oriented programming, all these. The next type of inheritance is hierarchical inheritance that we have discussed in the figure C. In hierarchical inheritance, multiple derived classes get inherited from a single base class. That is, two or more classes derived from single base class. The syntax for hierarchical inheritance is, first you have to define your base class. Syntax is class base class name. Inside that you can write your methods, mention your properties, etc. Then you can derive two or more classes from this base class. So the first derived class is derived class 1. So for deriving derived class 1 from base class, the syntax is class derived class 1 colon visibility mode base class name. Then you can mention the properties and methods of that class inside derived class 1. Then for deriving another class, derived class 2 from the base class, syntax is class derived class 2 colon visibility mode base class name. Then you can mention the properties and methods inside that class. And similarly, you can derive n number of classes from the same base class. So the syntax is class derived class n colon visibility mode base class name. Then inside that we can mention the properties and methods. So here you can see that the derived class 1, derived class 2, etc. derived class n are derived from a single base class, which is base class name. So this is the format you have to follow when you are writing a C++ program for hierarchical inheritance. The next type of inheritance is multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, a class can get inherited from the classes that are already derived. Then the next type of inheritance is hybrid inheritance. In hybrid inheritance, it is a mixture of two or more inheritance types. In this type of inheritance, a code may contain two or three types of inheritance in single code. This is the end of video tutorial of the concept of inheritance and different types of inheritance in object-oriented programming in C++.